I teamed up with Meeples for Peeples to do my first promotion. I've got 19 copies of Aaron Dean's book For the Love of Board Games that we would like to get into the hands of listeners. If you want to get your copy, please email me, Brodeur, at BRODEUR@goinfo.org with your shipping address. Now, some restrictions do apply. It is only here domestically within these United States, excluding Alaska and Hawaii, and you'll be getting your book in a flat ship rate box. Thanks for your patience and enjoy this week's episode. I'm Brodeur, and this is Why We Game. My guest today is Mindy Johnson, although she gave me permission to call her Mindy. I think that's how she prefers to be addressed. Mindy is the co-founder and serves as secretary for the charity Meeples for Peeples. Mindy, how are you?
I'm good.
So here we are in your basement, and your trophy husband is sitting here off to the side, and I didn't bring a microphone for him because you're the guest, not him. But you have something that a lot of gamers have. You have IKEA shelving surrounding me, and then they're just covered, right, filled with wonderfully spined and well-organized board games. So I have to take it from what I'm looking at, that board gaming is your primary aspect of the hobby.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Do you do anything besides board games?
Video games. So I would say just generally gamer.
I am an analog gamer, not a digital gamer, and generally take umbrage with people using our word to define digital. But how did you get into board gaming?
So it was only a few years ago. A friend of ours was just like us, kind of reinventing his life. We all went back to school late in our 30s. And he went away to Oklahoma, and his roommates played Catan, Settlers of Catan. And one of the times he came back to visit, he was like, you guys got to try this game. He told us about it, and he comes in with like these fishing tackle bags, and he had the game and all of the expansions. And we played Catan, just the base game, as our intro game. We're like, this is weird.
And this was in your 30s? So this wasn't that long ago?
No.
Because you're 33?
38.
No, stop it. You are not 38 years old. I call bullshit.
I'm an old lady.
Yeah, well, anyway. So you went back to college in your 30s?
Yeah. 33.
Why?
I had finally realized that if I wanted to make a good life for myself, I needed a unique trade. So I picked a unique study, accounting systems and forensics. And I went to night school and worked full-time during the day.
That's very impressive. See, I dropped out of school as a teenager or someone in their early 20s because it was a lot of work. So I couldn't imagine as somebody in their 30s going back to school.
It was intimidating because I felt like I could have been half those kids' mom in the class.
It was Settlers of Catan, which it's interesting to me only because that's a lot of people's first games, but we're talking about, many, many years ago. That's not that long ago that you really got into gaming. And you, as a hobbyist, obviously, you've jumped into the deep end, right? Because not only do you have an impressive collection, but there are some really heavy games over on your shelves. So you play Catan, and I assume that at some point it's just not enough anymore, right? It's like drinking Bud Light. I need something harder than this.
Yeah, it was like, we're just going to go straight for the Guinness.
So where did you go next?
I went to Lords of Waterdeep, and that was only because I was actually at work Googling the game Catan and all the expansions, just trying to learn more about it. And one of my coworkers was like, oh, you game? I was like, what do you mean? Like, I play World of Warcraft, And he's like, no, Catan. And he's like, what else do you play? And I was like, I don't just like other games like Pictionary or categories. I had all of the standard American household games. I said, but my friend's birthday's coming up, and he's really into this. I wanted to get him something. And he said, check out Lords of Waterdeep. And I saw it was Dungeons and Dragons. And so we also played a campaign with him.
Oh, so you play D&D also?
A little. I'm not creative enough.
Again, I call bullshit on not being creative enough. Just looking at your hobby interests, I think that's crap. But
so I was like, oh, we should try this because Dustin likes D&D. It's Lords of Waterdeep, which is one of their campaigns, and we'll probably all like it. So I got it for him as a gift, and then it kind of spiraled from there because I was actually told to get him Lords of Waterdeep or another game, which I can't even remember at this point. And I solely picked Lords of Waterdeep because it had Dungeons and Dragons logo on it.
So, and I'm assuming Lords of Waterdeep is something that you enjoy?
I do. He did not.
Really? It's like my favorite game. You're going to take a Euro-style resource management game, worker placement game, and you're going to put a fucking D&D skin on it? I am in, right? It's good. Yes!
And he was not. And I was like, okay, well, we'll try something else. And then we discovered Miniature Market, and we were like, okay, so we can go and check out some of these hobby games at the store and see what's going on. And we just started buying piles of games off of their Ding shelf. And this is the old school store in South County. And we started watching Tabletop, which also led us to new games. And then somebody somewhere when I was at work mentioned something called Geekway to the West. And I Googled it, and I was like, this sounds really nerdy. And I was like, I'm going to buy 3 tickets. And none of us were actually looking forward to it. We were all so skeptical going in. But I would say that was, for the 3 of us, our hook, line, and sinker into board gaming.
Just so the listeners understand, Geekway to the West is a local St. Louis area board game convention, but it literally draws people from all over the country, even some people from overseas. And they get about 3,000 or so attendance. So you guys had just gotten into gaming, really. You'd never been to a convention, and you just figured on a lark, you're going to go and hang out with a few thousand other gamers.
Yes.
That's courageous. So what was it like?
It was overwhelming. That opened my eyes to how huge this hobby was and the variety of games that were in there, from the lightweight games to the heavy games. I saw people waiting in line to play the demo for Scythe, and I was like, that looks like something I would never understand. And then I saw grown parents doing the Rhino Hero, standing on top of chairs and tables trying to stack this dexterity game as high as they could before it fell. And I was really surprised in how open, and it just opened my eyes to there's a whole lot more out there than the games I grew up with. And I can't wait to figure out what we're going to get into.
So what did you guys do then? Did you find a game or games at that Geekway? Is there anything that stuck out to you that you were like, fuck, I cannot wait to buy a copy?
So yes, it was actually Survive Space Attack, but is that the one we played, or did we play original? I think it's Space Attack. And we did buy it because it was the first game we were reading the rule book, and we're like, I don't know what's going on here. This is so complicated. And this lady walks by, and she's like, this is my favorite game to teach my students. She's like, you're going to love this game. And I was like, can you help us? And she took 15, 20 minutes of her time to teach us how to play. It was Kathleen Mercury.
Oh, wow. Well, Kathleen is actually somebody who I have been trying to get on the show. Just as a side note, I contacted her recently, and I was like, look, my show's a fucking sausage fest. And she's like, I'll bring the taco.
Yes, I love her.
She'll be the third taco, not...
She is awesome.
So Kathleen stops over, who, by the way, Kathleen was a board member for Geekway to the West. Full disclosure, for a few years I was as well.
See, I knew she was. I did not know you were. And so she stuck out to me because she was just she was just walking by and just ready to sit down and teach us how to play something. And I was like, this is kind of unlike anything I've ever experienced.
Right. Well, she's a big personality.
Oh,
so
yeah.
She's not shy at all.
No. And she kind of broke that ice because we were the timid new kids in class kind of thing. And she just took a hammer, broke the ice, and got us comfortable and took that edge off. And, if you have any questions, just ask. And she was playing a few seats down from us. And there were times we were like, hey, what does this mean? Where do we go? And she just and like you could tell it was our favorite game because she just knew those rules without even having to like pick up the rule book.
So you guys, I assume, have been back to Geekway?
Oh yes, every year since.
Except for 2020, obviously, yeah.
Obviously. But yeah, it has been a highlight. Like, I schedule my PTO around it. You know, I tell my work, like, don't call me, don't text me. If you email me, I'm not even looking at my email. You know, I don't care if the place is burning down. This is my escape. This is the one time I can actually dedicate the time I want to play board games without interruption, without real life, quote unquote, getting in the way.
So then have you guys delved into larger conventions like Board Game Geek or Gen Con?
No, we would love to. This year was actually supposed to be the year that one of us would go, or both of us. Nick was going to go. Our friend Eric, he's also part of Meeples for Peeples. He goes every year and has been going every year. And for the sake of, you know, budget and time, and I have 7 cats.
Wait a minute. You have 7 cats and you're married?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't make any sense.
So travel's tough. So that's why I would go up for a day, and then Nick was going to go for the full event. And then I would come home and take care of the minions.
Well, I thought the purpose of cats, though, the cats were like the sort of half pet, right? It was more roommate than thing you serve.
So I have a special needs kitty that has to be hand fed twice, 3 times a day. Sorry,
wow, that's so sweet.
Yes. So she is our priority. She does make travel a little tough. We actually consider getting an RV so we could do some things.
That's wonderful. That would be awesome. You guys get an RV. Go to the RV park for Gen Con, right? Drop the fucking RV off. You've got the 7 cats in there. You tow a smart car behind it. Oh, man, that sounds great. And you guys don't have kids?
No.
So you don't have any little nerdlings that you have to worry about taking a class or making new gamers? Or
No, not yet. Probably foster or adopt in the future.
Yeah, you're obviously much better person than I am, because that is certainly not something that I would consider. Children are work.
Yeah, that's me most of the time.
So do you have a favorite?
Oh gosh, does it have to be just one?
Well, no, it doesn't. You don't have to pick. I mean, I get that it's not like a spouse. You're not settling. You have options.
So I would say easily Feast for Odin.
Okay. Now, I have never played Feast for Odin. I have only played Agricola. I was finished. I didn't win, which is fine, because I've played games that I've won that I fucking hate. I played Agricola. I was like, dude, I have a job. I don't need a second job. I don't need this level of stress in my fucking life. So I've never picked up Feast for Odin because I'm scared. And you have the expansion for it as well. All the expansions.
Well, I should say all the expansions, like the little mini expansions they put out.
So what is Feast for Odin like? Because it's you, Rosen something or other.
Uwe Rosenberg.
Okay, all right. All right, now, Frank, you got to fucking shame me, just like my wife. Always got to be smarter than me.
It is really punishing. It is the game.
God, that sounds great.
It's the game that actually, other than Scythe, was the hardest for me to master, because you start with negative 80 points. I don't remember 100% if that's accurate.
So this game starts you in the hole.
Yes.
Okay.
And
well, that sounds really fun.
I shouldn't say, until the last 2 times we played, I had never been able to cover up all of those negative points. I was always sacking something and staying in the hole or scoring really, really, really low points. And it's the only game that I actually got on Board Game Geek and studied different strategies and things like that so that I could become better at it.
If I could steal Justin Gary's term, what's the core tension or the main driving mechanic in Feast for Odin?
It's like worker placement meets Tetris. So, you're placing your workers, you're gathering resources, but then you have a board where you have to place those resources to cover up the negatives, but then the way you cover up certain things, you can also earn bonus resources and you earn income. It's just, I don't know how to explain it simply.
So you've got, so it's worker placement, tile laying, right?
Yes.
But where you lay your tiles impacts your positive or negative points, right?
100%. Yes.
Okay. So this again, and it starts you in the negative.
Yep.
And it's very stressful.
Oh, 100%.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely sounds like I'm going to take this screwdriver and put it in my pee hole before I ever play that fucking game. That is what I know.
I think it's just mastering something that was, you know, like, I can get past this. So, I can get past these negative 80 points.
So you're very determined. I've learned a lot about you in this interview that I didn't know about you before because we were only sort of, acquaintances through my role at Miniature Market. And as the event coordinator working with you and your organization to do some events at our store. But I had no idea that you love work as much as you do. So in your 30s, you decide to go back to college. The board games that attract you are basically just second or third jobs. And you spent time playing World of Warcraft as a gamer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but World of Warcraft, basically, if you're into this game or were into this game, it's like a second job. Like you have a scheduled time that you meet with your guild and you go on raids and you have a specific role. It sounds like a fucking obligation where I don't get money. All right. So then, Mindy, what is it about the sense of obligation and the stress that attracts you?
I think it's when you complete the task, that satisfaction, when you are able to complete the objective. So you checked it off, or you put the line through it, or It's
not about winning. It's about overcoming this challenge and completing this thing?
Yes, because I don't win. And if I win, it's because the other three hooligans are too worried about screwing each other over. And then I can fuck yeah, I'm going to run for that finish line.
I seldom win games. I play a lot of two-player games with my wife. My wife is extremely smart, and she generally kicks my dick in. Now, you don't win much either. Do you and Nick play a lot of two-player games, just you two hanging out?
Never.
Why is that? Now, I'm not asking him. He doesn't have a mic. I'm asking you. Now, I know that if he needs to leave the room so you can give me an honest answer, I will politely ask him to leave his own basement.
No, it's the community for us. It's with our friends.
Of course.
Now, if we are going to play two-player game, we are going to play World of Warcraft. I religiously log into every day to do my auctions and my farming.
Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. So you guys play WoW together, two-player, and I assume that is not you are on opposite ends of the same PvP server?
No.
Why do you mean? I don't know the dynamic of your relationship. Maybe that's what you guys are
Maybe
into.
we should be.
Yeah. So Horde or Alliance? That's what people really want to know.
For the Alliance.
Okay, for the Alliance. Gotcha. But the Alliance doesn't have trolls, does it?
No.
Yeah, well, that's a problem for me. I need trolls and orcs.
Well, yeah, so I have Horde characters, but and everyone who plays WoW is going to laugh. Here's the reason I cannot play a Horde. I've been playing this game over a decade, I still can't find my way out of Orgrimmar.
I don't know what that means.
It's a town in the game, and for the life of me, I cannot find my way around that town.
Okay, so hold on a second. I just want to make sure that I understand. You went on to Board Game Geek and read strategy blogs and discussion boards about how to be better at another of Yuva Ruzugadub's hellish board game fucking punishments, right?
Yeah.
But you won't go on the internet and spend 5 minutes looking at a map to get out of Gerburgerdurg.
Yep.
All right, great, kick-ass. I love it because that wasn't important to you, obviously.
Nope.
There are plenty of other low-hanging challenges that you can play as an Alliance player.
100%.
I get it. I absolutely get it. So let me ask you this. Where do you and your spouse diverge on games? Because you guys have been together for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you said that. Oh, okay. So
because I never remember how long we were married. How long we've been married? 16 years.
So, all right. So now Nick Trophy Husband knew that. Now he's standing there. He's got a 3-piece suit on. It's a single breast. It's very, very dapper, but very handsome, but he's apparently not allowed to talk. So you guys diverge on games. So my wife and I will get like, I don't play fucking Carcassonne. I won't do it. It's boring. It's done. It's an old game. What's something that you like to play that Nick doesn't want to play or vice versa?
God, that's a tough one.
Is it tough? Is it tough? Is there a game? Okay, Nick, I'm gonna say, because Nick doesn't have a mic. Nick, what game do you love that she hates? X-Wing?
Oh, X-Wing.
Okay, so miniature war game sort of stuff.
Oh, if you have to use a measuring tool, I'm out.
Okay, so you don't want to play miniature games. Now, again, I'm not trying to be sexist, but demographically, most people that play miniature-driven games tend to have a Y chromosome. Just how it works. And it's not a discriminatory thing. It's just men and women often have different tastes in games. So what do you love that Nick doesn't want to play?
God, now I have to think about that.
Well,
I have to look at hang on, let me look at the shelf.
You guys have a Talisman expansion over there. I fucking hate Talisman. I've played Talisman exactly one time. I kicked ass, stood up from the table and said, I will never play this game again. Ever. Okay, now and I don't know if you can hear, but Nick is telling me that the game sucks without expansions. But the thing is, I'm never going to find out that that's true or not. It's sort of like the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. I don't care. I just don't have that kind of time or inclination. I've been burned once. I'm not going to invest another 4 days to get burned again. You know what I mean? So, Mindy, you've had an opportunity to look around the room. Mindy loves X and Nick hates it. I can't believe you guys don't have one of those.
I don't think we really.
All right. Well, then let's go back to measuring tapes. What's the deal with the measuring stick? Why do you hate it?
That's just too ticky-tacky for me.
Ah, so finicky style stuff you don't want to do.
But I'll play a board game that's finicky.
Okay, so you'll play fucking Dinosaur Island, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is complex and finicky and filled with parts, but you don't want to measure the distance between one toy soldier to the next.
Yeah. That's just too, for some reason, that's too technical. I'm out.
But then for fun, you'll go in and you'll start a charitable organization and do all of the high level board level secretary work for that. That's okay, but you don't want to measure the distance between two dudes.
Yep.
I got it. No, I totally get it. So when did Meeples for People start? Because the evolution to me is fascinating, because you go from someone in their early 30s, who most of us that started gaming, we started doing it as kids and we got exposed by friends or parents. So you're coming up in a generation where you're starting gaming older. There's not the stigma to gaming. And you decide that, hey, me and some other people are going to get together and we're going to develop a charitable organization around board games. So when did Meeples for Peoples start? When did you guys found it?
March 2018.
So it's been a couple years you've been around, and one of those years has been a real son of a gun.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Yeah.
Sucks.
So 2018, so it's you and your husband Nick and a few other people?
Yep. Kathleen, Mercury, Eric, Whitey Camper, Dustin Koffel, and then we have Steve Frazier. So just a group of, I guess, 6 of us. Kathleen is in and out as she can be. She's very involved in many aspects of the hobby, so her expertise is invaluable when it comes to advice and mentorship or hosting events. She's fantastic. And then Steve is basically our compliance guru. He reads over the documents. And then Nick and Eric and Dustin there are doers. They help with like the packing of games, or whenever we pick up hauls from Miniature Market or have game donations like a Geekway. So they are more of the doers, because everything's online for us. So it doesn't require a lot of employee manpower. So as applications come in through the website, we'll sit down and go through them and decide, what do we have? Can we fill it? What's the cost to ship? So everybody's involved in their own unique way, and we all come together when we need to for events.
Is the organization entirely volunteer for you guys?
Yes.
All right, so you guys aren't taking paychecks from it.
None.
Okay. Let's drill down on Meeples then. Why did you guys decide to start a charitable organization?
It was actually because of the Geekway virtual flea market and flea market. It was March. They had posted up some links for Geekway's virtual flea market on Board Game Geek, and we were pulling games off the shelf, like we sell these, and we had a lot. And Nick and I were sitting here like, wouldn't it be cool if we could donate these somewhere? And we were looking, we pulled up a few other board game related charities that we found. Like there's one called Badana Group, and they use play as therapy.
I know them. We interviewed one of those people years ago on a different podcast I do called Fear the Boot, because their name is wickedly ominous. It sounds to me like just a villainous organization that has this sort of Lex Luthor style front, but behind closed doors they're doing terrible experiments on people.
Oh gosh.
Just look at the name. It sounds horrifying.
I never thought of it that way.
Badana Group. Yeah, it's like something from the TV show Millennium or X-Files. It's terrifying to me.
And then we also found the Spiel Foundation, but they had a very...
German, that's terrifying enough.
Oh, stop. A very well-oiled machine of, like, they have a set of 8 games that they ship to hospitals, nursing homes, children's hospitals. So we were like, well, where can we put these used games? It'd be cool if there was a charity. And we had game night, and we talked like, wouldn't it be cool if there was a charity where we could take these games and send them off to people and, you know, teachers, children's homes, any place that could use them, that it didn't have to be new. Played games. It was a thing of the past. I woke up the next morning and I had a flood of texts from Eric. This is an awesome idea. We need to do this. That just kind of snowballed the whole process. We got online. We started researching what we needed to do. We were told we could only do it if we had a lawyer, and it was going to cost like $5,000 or $6,000. And the more I dug, the more I realized we could do this on our own. We're not setting out to become like the American Cancer Society or the Susan G. Komen Foundation, where they are massive and they would need a lawyer because they are doing monstrous things. Like their reach is, we're just these little guys compared to them. And so I was like, we can do this on our own. And we did. And it was somebody who we did raise the funds, because I think it was still like maybe almost $400 to do the application on our own. We were $100 short, and there was somebody who was like, meet me at Miniature Market. I'll give you the last $120 you need. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be real. And we're going to do this. And we did. I mean, we made a couple of application errors, so we were delayed a few months. But I was surprised how quickly it came together and how the whole group, our core game group, was just like, hell yeah, let's do it. And we did it, and it came to life. You guys collect used games, new games, and then you donate them to whom? Almost any organization that wants them. I mean, we don't really say no. There's a juvenile detention center in Seattle that we've sent 2 bundles to. You know, like they have limits of what they can accept. Nothing that's going to have any like gambling in it, or maybe reference anything that could be symbolic of a gang. But after we sent the first package, it was several months later, she wrote back and said, I've noticed a behavior change in my kids, and we will take anything you're willing to send to us to keep building our library. So we sent her another package. Our biggest driver is schools, teachers, even school libraries are building game libraries into their selections, which is really cool because that was not a thing when I was in high school or middle school. And they have like activity rooms where the kids can go check out a game at the library and play. The way things have changed since we were in school, like that's pretty neat. You know, the kids can just kind of relax and hang out, learn something new, and go as far as Alaska, nursing homes. We will ship to anyone who wants to start a community of gaming. That's absolutely, really, really super sweet. It really is. I can't imagine, like, I'm just not that kind of person. I would never sit around with my game group and be like, we should do something to help people because they don't get to game. I guess I'm just a very ugly, egocentric person because I think I don't have enough time to game or enough money to buy games. And there are people that is you're collecting stuff, sending it across the country to troubled, youths in bad situations and changing their behavior and helping improve their lives by board games. Well, who thought? Well, not me, obviously. And who knew? Like, we were even surprised because we didn't know what this would turn into. We didn't realize that this was a kind of need that needed to be filled. So, and that's one of the things, like when you're starting a nonprofit, like one of the questionnaires you're going through is like, what kind of need are you filling? Are you filling something that's already there? Like one of my my personal things is animal rescue. And I always thought to myself, if I ever start a nonprofit, it's going to be for an animal rescue. Or it's going to be something related to like low-income people. For example, Circle of Concern in Valley Park here in St. Louis. Very near and dear to my heart because I was a very poor kid growing up and they put food on my table. So I always knew at some point in my life I was going to be part of a nonprofit. I just didn't know. If you ever asked me if it was going to be board games, I would have laughed at you.
So somebody gave you a hand up when you were young, and you always knew that you would give back somehow.
Yes.
Now, see, I am so envious of your positivity, right? So the only thing I know about Valley Park is that their police put me in the hospital because they kicked the shit out of me when I was younger. So badly so that I woke up in a hospital strapped to a bed, but that's neither here nor there. I had a rough childhood as well, and as an adult, I've just looked out for me, right? Like I don't know, it's terrible, but I'm so concerned about my own survival and happiness that I'm not charitable like that.
Don't know if it's because I went through some of it as an adult as well. My mom was diagnosed with cancer, immediately terminal. I quit my job and took care of her because my parents had no insurance. So, we did the hospice thing, and Circle of Concern came in then, and they made sure that my mom and dad had food, or that because my grandmother, her mom, they made sure she was taken care of. It just, the humanity of it, like I said, I knew like how much they did for my family. I was going to do something for somebody someday. Like I said, if you ever asked me if it was going to be board games, I would have laughed. I didn't think that we would be sending bundles. We would partner with some organizations that Santa for Soldiers to send pocket-sized games or small games that can be put into a pack for Christmas. Or, when we're going through things for the flea market, some games aren't worth selling. What's that $10 going to get me? Yeah, sure, I can put that toward another game, but I want that game to be played by somebody. Like, games were really important for us growing up because that was our big night. If we weren't renting movies from Blockbuster, my mom, my dad, and myself, my neighbors, we were popping popcorn and playing Cranium or Sorry or whatever else that we had at the time.
So you were into, I hate to use air quotes, but into essentially what we would consider standard or traditional gaming prior to your exposure to Catan.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The standard household.
So the sense of community and stuff, that's something you've had for a long, long time.
Yeah, I guess so. Never thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it was important that you and your family would sit around the table and you'd play Cranium and other type basic games long before you were ever exposed to Catan. So it sounds like it's always been in your blood. You just you weren't exposed to the depth and width of the hobby.
Yes, that is 100%. Because I would, like I said, as we got deeper into the hobby, it was like, whoa, this changes everything. Especially whenever we see things on either forums or the Facebook groups of, hey, like COVID, thanks. My mom and I are looking for games to play. What would be good for us? And I go down, look at my shelf, or I think like, oh, this would be like lanterns, that's great. Anybody can learn that. It's easy enough that anybody can learn. Not everything has to be hardcore, balls to the wall type of game. Like this hobby can include anybody, and that is the best thing about it.
You have not experienced as a woman, if you don't mind me asking, have you experienced any impediment to being in the hobby because of your gender?
I have not.
Nobody's hitting on you or saying inappropriate stuff, or you can't play this game because you're a girl?
Never.
Which I know, by the way, I'm not supposed to call women girls. I don't. I was just using that as an example. It's been brought to my attention that I'm very sexist.
No, I've never experienced that. I've had the exact opposite experience in this hobby of, hey, have a seat. You want to play this game? Or, just like I said, like Geekway, somebody walking by the table and teaching me how to play a game, or walking down after getting a hot dog at Geekway and saying, hey, I have a seat open, you want to play? I'm like, oh, well, I'm playing with my friends over here, sorry. Just the openness the welcoming, just, I've never experienced, I know it exists. I've personally never experienced it.
Now, do you think, as someone who is avidly involved in the gaming hobby, both as a hobbyist and as someone who works professionally to get other people into the hobby? That question was so fucking long, I lost my train of thought. That's embarrassing. Don't smoke pot, kids. It's bad for your brain, especially before you're 25, because it will destroy you. So people will ask you, you're a woman, can I get a woman's take on games? Or they would do it in a more, I'm an idiot, will you help me? Because what go to girls like?
Yeah, I would say it's a mix of both. It's, people just, like, they don't know, or because of, like, they may only be a type A gamer where they play, like, only heavyweight Euros, and they aren't into, say, Sakatsu or Maki Koro. I mean, there's all these games, so if they're not used to playing it, they're not going to think of it. As somebody who plays anything, that's the thing. I don't pinpoint myself either to one type of genre. I just like games.
In your experience with your female friends, do they have a tendency to gravitate to types of games, and your male friends have a tendency to gravitate to other types of games? Example being, I love toy soldiers, I love miniatures. Nick loves toy soldiers, he loves miniatures. My wife hates them. You, not a fan. So that's one example of people who play this type of game tend to have wieners, and people who play this type of game tend to not have wieners. I don't know. It just seems when you go to a shop or you go to a convention, that's what you see.
I agree. Yes, I agree 100% with that statement. But I also think it's something that you ease into. So yeah, if I'm going to sit down with one of my girlfriends, I am going to pick something like Lanterns or Sushi Roll or, whatever can be played lightly. And if they like it, I may, take them down the path. Some people just don't like playing games either. And that's fine. Also, artwork.
Right.
Artwork is fun. I will, no shame, buy a game because of the art on the box or because of the art in the game.
Guilty.
I never have to play that game. I just love the artwork. That was my first major.
But there's
school dropout.
But there is nothing wrong with that. And it's funny, when I said earlier that I've been told that I'm very sexist, I'm not. I was making a joke. I just, in case there is a lady out there that thinks I am actually a sexist. Aesthetic is totally important. I don't want to go down this anecdote again. I didn't play Gloomhaven for a long time because I think it's hideous. But gameplay, brilliant. Unbelievable how good that is. But I have a Skulk Hollow 2-player game. Not a great game. Art, brilliant. Loved it. Bought it. I'll play it again. Not my favorite game, but it's so cute and neat to look at. I adore it.
Totally can relate to that. For me, Koi is one. I love the artwork. When we played it, it was a little flat for me. I'll play it again. I'm not, another thing I would consider, depending on, like, I'm introducing someone to a game, is theme. If I know someone loves Marvel, I'm probably going to grab Splendor Marvel. I'm not going to grab regular Splendor.
How is Splendor Marvel? I mean, it's just a reskin, right?
Yes. So, but if I'm going to, come to the dark side, I'm going to use whatever I can to my advantage to get you to play the game.
So then do you proselytize the hobby? Do you go out and try to get people who are not gamers to become gamers?
A little tiny bit. So at work, yes, I will try. When we were in the office, we actually did board game lunches. We actually have a closet of games. At your job? At my job. I don't know if I can say where I work. Oh, I don't care. That's totally up to you. I mean, if you don't want a stalker, then don't stay where you work. Well, I work at a Fortune 100 technology company. I'll put it that way. So it's very, very bleeding edge with everything we do. And we have dedicated board game closet. There's heavy games, there's light games. Most everything we try to play is within 30 minutes. But I will try to coax somebody who has never played a game before, like, come play this, especially if they're, like a parent with kids, teenagers. My specific coworker, Ryan, I was showing him some games to play with his boys. And I'm like, here we are stuck at home. There's not a lot to do. Well, they still get to, go play sports and stuff, but being homeschooled and you got to change it up. Got to do what you can. And so like things like Bites. Have you played Bites?
I have not played Bites. What is that?
It is a quirky little game. I love the games Chad Deshawn puts out.
Okay.
From Board Game Table. He finds these little games that are like really crunchy fillers. And it's a really...
Now that seems to be a strange contradiction in terms. Crunchy filler. Yes. Most filler games are just kind of silly bullshit that you play, as filler.
Mm-hmm.
So crunchy filler, what is it?
Yes. All right. And it's a really light game. Like you're playing an ant and you're moving along on like pieces of food, and it's like little pieces of fruit or wine or something like that. And you're trying to get to like the end of the round, and there's like a tree stump, and depending on how high you get on the little tree stump is maybe how you score. Nobody knows how they're going to score until the end of the game. But that's the thing is like, well, do you,
Wait.
It's simple, but it's hard.
I don't know how I'm going to score until the end of the game. So how do I plot a viable strategy toward victory if I don't know the metric by which I'm being judged?
So there are cards that are kind of like variable powers, but they're not player specific. And so that's where the chunky part comes in, because like if you collect a certain number of grapes or a certain number of wine glasses or chocolate is a wild, you can use that in place of something else. Then it also affects how the ant moves, or if the ant moves backwards or forwards, or it's, like I said, there's where the chunkiness comes in.
And what's it called again?
Bites.
Bites. All right. I will definitely just BITES.
Yeah.
I will definitely check Bites out. That sounds very, very interesting. With the charity, obviously you're not doing charitable events during COVID-19. But I also noticed on your website that you guys aren't accepting donations right now during COVID-19, at least physical donations. I assume that is because you don't want people who may have been exposed to COVID touching a bunch of stuff, mailing it to you, and then you're de facto spreading a pandemic, more aggressively.
Yes. Plus, we are also limited on space. So since we haven't been able to fundraise to ship out, I also have no room for inventory. I can take new games, but right now, like we've made the decision with everything going on that we cannot take used games. The risk is just too great, along with the financial constraint that we have that we can't send anything out.
Sure. But if people did want to donate to you financially, that's fairly easy to do through your website, right?
Yes.
It is meeplesforpeoples.com?
Yes, and it's PEEPLES.
It's people spelled like Meeple, right?
Yes.
Now, also, this is something too, I don't know the reality of it. I was reading on your website about the genesis of my people, or the word Meeple, and I had always heard that originally they were made from maple, and it came from maple people, Meeple.
I have never heard that.
Well, I'm sure it's a lie because I don't have specifics, but your website is very clear about this. Allison X is the person who came up with the term. So that's the story I'm going with. I'm going to believe the internet. I'm going to believe I'm going to believe what I heard. Mindy, do you guys have any idea since your inception in 2018 that how many board games you guys have actually donated?
Probably around 700 games total shipped coast to coast.
But that means then you can extrapolate out from that 700 games coast to coast, the number of people that have been exposed to games. If you're thinking 2 to 5 players per game getting used and used and used and used again, that's really neat. Do you guys have any intention on, hey, Mindy, you guys sent us some games. We love them. We've actually like to send those games back to you and get new games, get kind of trades.
Never has happened, but that would be awesome too.
Like we've had King of Tokyo for 6 months. Everybody in the facility has played King of Tokyo to death. Can we get a different game? Right? That's the kind of thing that I think would be interesting, is in that way you can get games back. So just have a, donate back to us sort of thing. So have a different program for redonating a game back to the system.
That is fascinating. I've never thought about that, but
it would ship. Well, sure, it would cost shipping. So then what you do is you just have a thing set up on the website where you calculate shipping and then, you pay shipping for them. So you don't cut them a check or anything. You just say, UPS will be by on this date. They have a call tag for it. I will take everything back. And then all they've got to do is package it.
Our shipping costs.
Sure, it'd be too expensive.
Yeah, because I would say board games are heavy. Our average package expense ranges, because shipping is so strange, it goes from anywhere from $30 to $60, depending on weight and distance and the size of the box.
And you're looking at how many games on average would you estimate that to be?
We try to do 10 to 15 games per box. And if we can throw it, like, if we can put more in there, fantastic.
Right, so you're looking at about $2 to $4 per game to ship.
Yes. See, I'm not the math person, so we have it down to a pseudoscience of box. We get, they're 16 by 16 by 12 from Home Depot, and that's the box size that we can do for $30 to $60 in shipping, and however many games we can fit into that box.
Gotcha. So it's about the box and what you can cram in. And I assume that those dimensions are very good for standard board game size boxes?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
What's the next step for the charity? Obviously, everything is on hold because of the global pandemic. But once we get on the other side of this, whatever that looks like, besides going back and doing conventions and doing fundraisers, obviously the organization is still very young. Where do you guys want to take it? Like, what's the next step for Meeples?
I would like to see it grow into having volunteers, because I just, like, the whole salary thing is further down the line, but slowly grow into having volunteers be able to host events where they teach games. We don't do a lot of that. We do primarily shipping. We've had a couple of events where we have helped teach some games, but between working full time, doing this, and other things in life in general, being able to get other people in the community to help create those pods of events, like college kids, like we could host a game night at a university, but also having like ambassadors to help teach, we'll bring in 5 copies of Small World and teach a bunch of people how to play one game so that more people are exposed to the hobby, learn new games, learn something, they may like it or not like it, just to get more involved that way.
If listeners want to become more involved with Meeples for Peeples, how do they contact you?
Contact us through our website or info@meeplesforpeoples.com.
And you're looking for, obviously it's difficult to say precisely what you're looking for right now, but if someone at a university and their game club wanted to put something together, they can contact you, whether that is like a meet and greet, a learn to play, or is it specifically for the organization wants to collect donations to give to other people? Would you be willing to host sort of a social event? Like, hey, we're here with Meeples for Peeples. We're not asking for money today.
Right.
We just want you guys to experience the joy of board gaming.
100%. Okay. Yeah, that's where I was going.
Gotcha.
Like with having like university or somebody ambassadors and having events. Just to expose people to something new, or if, they're away from home and maybe they do have games that they play, but they don't know anyone at the university that plays games. A good way to get kind of people out to force to talk to each other. The human element.
Well, Mindy and Nick, of course, it has been a real pleasure. I appreciate it. At some point, what I would like to do, because I actually have a multiple mic rig, I would love to do a Meeples for Peeples update, where it's the whole group of us, where you, me, and a couple other people all get together and do some bullshitting about them. Maybe we'd do some sort of recording from Geekway in 2021.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, Mindy, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm a terrible person at asking for money. That's the one thing that we need.
Why We Game is a production of the Influence Foundation. All rights reserved. Audio editing by Brodor. Music by Owen Godwin.